What's up, everybody? It's your boy Chris C. Pups Sarai, bringing you another edition of the Car Concierge Show, the show that helps you with the buying, selling, maintaining, and repairing of all your vehicles. On today's show, of course, the timeline, of course, has been covered in news about the Joe Biden stepping down from the running for president. Also, and even more so in the news is Kamala Harris being presented as the Democratic Party's vote for the presidency, and Joe Biden backing her, as it were. So what we're going to do today is really quickly, we're going to talk about that effect on the automotive industry, and then we're going to, that's pretty much all we're going to do. We're just going to talk about that effect on the automotive industry when it comes to their view on the automotive industry, as well as its effect on some other people, particularly Sean Fain. All right, so real quickly, first off, I want to jump into something that I found really interesting, is that Toyota factory in Japan is talking about going to a 4-day work week. And I want to talk about that because with the climate as it was in not only the automotive industry, but around the world when it comes to jobs and things like that, layoffs and places closing, I thought the idea of the 4-day work week was a thing to check out because, there's lots of places are still trying to do this. Now, I personally don't think that a 4-day work week works in reality unless you have less work, which is a problem if you have less work. So let's go ahead and check out this quick article and see what they're talking about. All right. Toyota weighs 4-day work week and sweeping overhaul of office life. The possible change in Japan is part of a sweeping rethink of office life meant to streamline workloads for a modern, more agile era. And this is from July 24th by Hans Grimmel. It's the elusive holy grail of every working stiff, the 4-day work week. Now it's on the table at the Toyota for possible implementation in Japan, a country notorious for its grueling work hours, grinding overtime, and hardboiled office culture. A shortened work week is one possible outcome of ongoing discussions between Toyota Motor Corporation and its Japanese labor union. The talks are part of wide reforms meant to streamline the company's bureaucratic workflow for a modern, more flexible era. The rethink comes amid a company-wide review of work practices ordered in the spring by CEO Koji Sato under the banner of an intentional pause. Sato issued the directive after the world's biggest automaker dashed to record sales and production levels last fiscal year. Running so hot brought unexpected setback. Employees were overworked, suppliers were overstretched, and Toyota and its affiliates became tripped up in embarrassing quality problems. Executives likened the pause to pulling the add-in, the Japanese term for the cord factory workers pull to stop the assembly line when they spot a problem and need to troubleshoot. Existing workloads should be reduced for the time being, Sato said in May. We should question whether a particular work is necessary or not. We might need to stop certain types. Making improvements. At factories, for example, Toyota is tempering its cadence for long-term sustainable growth. Measures have already included a temporary suspension of plants in Japan to reassess. On the workload front, various actions, including a 4-day week, are being considered to develop systems and mechanisms to improve the working environment, aiming to create a workplace where everyone can feel a sense of growth, a Toyota spokesperson said. The goal is to roll out the changes over the next 10 years, in tandem with Toyota's aspirational transformation into a mobility company, the spokesperson said. Already, the company has made improvements to air conditioning, restrooms, and changing rooms at its facilities. 4-day weeks are increasingly seen as feasible in the working world. During its 2023 negotiations with U.S. automakers, the UAW called for a 4-day work week, but was unsuccessful in folding that into its contracts. But more than one-third of last year's Automotive News 100 Best Dealerships to Work For offered a 4-day work week, option in at least some departments, and 94 of them offered at least some kind of flexible work hours. Toyota time. At Toyota, if the sides agree on the 4-day idea, it could be in place by the end of this year. The objective is not necessary to implement a 4-day week, but that is simply one possible outcome. The real objective is to improve work efficiency and work-life balance. Still, the setup is not as sweet as it might sound. The concept under consideration would most likely just amplify existing flex time policies. Employees would need to make up that third day off by adding hours somewhere else in the week, which is what they have to do here. This means it would be possible for an individual to arrange their 40-hour work week across 4 days and have an extra day off, the spokesperson said. Toyota's flex time system applies to about 10,000 employees in Japan, mainly office and engineering staff at the assistant manager level, the company said. It allows them to choose what time to clock in and out of work, but it requires a minimum of 2 hours a day. The relaxed rules would eliminate the daily minimum and likely be applied differently in different departments. The implementation might also be applied on a case-by-case basis on discussions with managers. Production workers at plants aren't expected to be covered. In Japan, Toyota's white-collar workers up to the level, including assistant managers, are covered under the same union as its blue-collar ones, but labor talks are specific to each group because of the differing natures of their work. All right. So, what are we talking about here? Like they mentioned, there are several places here in America that do 4-day work weeks. Now, standardly, if they do that, it's probably like a 10-hour day. 10-hour day, 40 hours a week, same situation. I worked for a couple places like that. It was beautiful because you got an extra day off, and technically, you only worked, 2 more hours a day. It's not a big deal, and it's a great idea. I think that in itself is a great idea. What I don't think is a great idea is the idea of, having somebody, the 36-hour thing that the UAW was trying to pitch was that, you're not getting paid for the 4 hours. See, the thing about that is that that's a detriment to the employee. I don't know if they understand it, specifically if they're hourly. If they're hourly, that's a detriment. You're losing 4 hours a week in pay. And that's money you need in most cases. So that didn't go over well with me at all. And the idea of a 4-day work week is great. I don't personally think it is, because me personally, I think once you start cutting the hours down, then you cut down the production. So, if the idea is to make it more feasible and make it more modern and more agile, I understand that. But the cutting of hours, I truly think, is something that would only affect the employee in a negative way. And I think that in the long run, it would affect the company itself, because, it sounds like you would lose production. And how are you feasibly going to tell me that you're going to not lose production but cut down on the hours? That just doesn't make sense to me. It doesn't add up in any feasible way.
Your taste buds here, asking people to try delicious rainstorm.
Yeah, it doesn't add up in any feasible way. So I don't see how that would privy to the United States of America at all. I don't see how that would translate over, unless they're talking about 4 days a week, 10 hours a day. That is very, very feasible. Okay. All right. So next up, let's really dive into the whole political arena. And what we're going to do is just first, we're going to talk about what they're thinking, that the change from Biden to Kamala Harris and how that's going to affect the automotive industry. Biden had put a lot of stock into the automotive industry with the 100% tariffs, with the backing of the UAW contract, with the assistance that he's been giving the big three. He was backed strongly by the automotive industry. The automotive industry was very adamant on backing him, and I really think, even like Sean Fain, you could honestly see that he had big plans with the Biden presidency. You really could see him angling to a point where he could use his UAW fame to, get him into a position of power when in the new presidential team, as it were. But with the new change and the loss of Biden and the gaining of Kamala, there's going to be a lot of change when it comes to what they see in the automotive industry. So let's check it out. We're going to check out, of course, we stay with the automotive news. We're going to check out an article written yesterday by George Wieckamp. What Trump versus Harris means for the auto industry. All right. President Joe Biden's sweeping automotive and labor policies will likely be passed to Vice President Kamala Harris following his historic withdrawal from the 2024 presidential election. Biden, who was facing a rematch against former President Donald Trump, dropped out of the race on July 21st after the debate performance that left many stakeholders questioning whether the 81-year-old had the cognitive ability to do the job. The president endorsed Harris after announcement. The Democratic National Convention is not until next month, but as of July 22nd, enough delegates have pledged their support to the vice president to secure the nomination. Additionally, Harris has racked up a flurry of political endorsements, including Michigan Governor Gretchen Whitmer and Transportation Secretary Pete Buttigieg. I don't know, Pete, he's cool. Since Biden withdrew. Biden's withdrawal underscores the contentious state of the 2024 election for automotive policy and labor. The president's legacy, which includes strict tailpipe emission standards, broad infrastructure achievements, and strong union support, is opposed by Trump, who says the administration is driving away American jobs and ruining the U.S. automotive industry. Policy differences between Biden and Harris are going to be very, very minuscule in terms of what it means for the auto industry, said Merrick Masters, business professor at Wayne State University, from a policy perspective. Having the Harris-Trump race is almost the same as the Biden-Trump race. Union support has been a cornerstone of Biden's political identity. The incumbent, who labels himself the most pro-union president in history, won the endorsement of the UAW after becoming the first U.S. president to join a picket line during the 12th day of the union strike against the Detroit Three. The UAW, in a statement July 21st, commended Biden's decision to pass the torch to the next generation of leaders and celebrated his record of supporting union labor. The union did not explicitly endorse Harris, but noted its commitment to defeating Trump. All right, so real quick, we are going to jump to the article about the UAW. So, UAW, after making Biden wait for endorsement, not ready to support Harris. UAW President Shawn Fain said the union's leadership would discuss possibly endorsing Vice President Kamala Harris in the coming days. Michael Martinez wrote this today. Look at this, folks. UAW President Shawn Fain is taking his time again before giving the union's endorsement in this year's presidential election. Fain has made clear he does not support former President Donald Trump, but he isn't yet backing Vice President Kamala Harris, who quickly became the presumptive Democratic Party nominee after President Joe Biden dropped out of the race. Speaking July 24th at the American Federation of Teachers Conference, Fain railed against Trump, whom he called a scab and a lapdog for billionaires who does not represent working people. He said the upcoming election will impact every single contract negotiation, every new organizing campaign, and is going to determine whether we go forward or backward as a nation for generations to come. Still, Fain didn't mention Harris or Biden's roughly 20-minute speech. The UAW endorsed Biden in January after withholding support for months until Fain was satisfied his concerns about the industry's transition to electric vehicles were addressed. We have a process we follow, just like anything, Fain said July 22nd in an appearance in MSNBC. We're going to be discussing things over the next few days, and then we'll choose that path forward and make announcements as we deem fit. Fain said Biden's decision not to seek re-election was a bittersweet moment because he was the greatest president of my lifetime. He praised Biden for appearing on a union picket line last fall, noting that Harris did the same during a strike against General Motors in 2019 during Trump's presidency. Fain said the UAW's executive board will be communicating with the Harris campaign and seeking input from members. We're looking at a lot of things right now, he said. We have our team looking at other people, not as presidential candidates, but other possible vice president candidates, and things like that. We have an obligation to represent working class interests. We're not going to rush in and just throw it out there. We want to have full discussions. This is going to be, and I already said this. At this point, I think it's Trump's race to lose. That's fairly obvious to me now, even more so. I don't think that Kamala Harris is going to have the same fortitude when it comes to back in the automotive industry as Biden did. I think but see, that's just it. I don't think, like they said the changes are going to be minuscule. And I think that the only thing that's going to keep the changes minuscule is the backing, as it were. All the same people that were backing Biden are going to be the same people that back Miss Harris. So they're going to all have pretty much the same agendas, and they're going to have the same talking points and the same ideas pretty much. So, I'm trying to think that it's not going to change a lot. But the fact that the UAW and Shawn Fain hasn't backed them tells me a lot. It tells me that they don't feel that Miss Harris would back them as much as Joe Biden did. He said he was the best president of his lifetime. So if he thinks that that's the best president of his lifetime, I don't think that he's just going to jump the gun and jump behind Miss Harris. And they think like I think. They think that in some way, shape, or how, she is not going to have the same fortitude behind her backings of the automotive industry as Biden had. It almost seemed like Biden had personal interest in the American automotive industry and the UAW being successful, which we don't know if he does or not, but it felt that way because of the way he was doing it. Not only joining the picket line, but backing him against the big three, and more importantly, the 100% tariffs. That's all about the UAW and the automotive industry and big three maintaining power over the market share here. So, it's going to have to be a wait and see situation. I personally think that Miss Harris is going to use the powers that be to get herself into the presidential chair, and then I think she might change after the fact. I think that she needs to maintain steadfast at what she's saying and what everybody else is saying behind her, so that she has all of the powers that need to make her become president. Now, do I think she's going to become president? No. I don't think that the world thinks that they're ready for a female president. I don't think the world thinks they're ready for a female black president. It's going to be a hard sell for a lot of people. Trump is winning the war, and the fact that he's really went to battle and been shot at is not helping. So, let's just wait till the end. We'll keep an eye on it. Of course, it's going to turn into a political automotive show. I understand that now, but I don't have that. I don't mind that. Us black conservatives have no problem speaking about the politics of things if we have to. So, on that note, thank you for tuning in. I'm going to jump out of here and get on something else. You guys have a good Wednesday. Peace.